Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for coming. Today is the best panel that you can have, so you're lucky, guys, to be here. Yes, you will see it. Today, we're going to talk about how the startups can help the cities. And we have four big and great examples of 4 cities and 4 entities or companies that can help and connect the startups with the cities. I hope you will enjoy and take advantage of all the information and good information from them. You will have different examples from Tel Aviv, from Berlin, from Dubrovnik, and also from the company Akbar. Is one of the most famous water distributor here in Spain. And just enjoy it, because they are going to talk about happiness of the citizens, you know? How to make easier the lives of everybody, but basically for the citizens, because the cities are for citizens. So I will ask on stage, and please, a big applause for all the 4 speakers of today, please. For Liora Shechter, for Niksa, please, also. Niksa Vlahusic, Philipp Bouteiller, and Fernando Rayón, please take seat. Any order, you can sit. So basically, the format of today will be each one of the panelists will present on stage. They have a presentation for you. And then at the end of the 4 presentation, you can ask. You have some microphones here on my left side, but also you can use the application Ask and Vote, and you can send to me the questions that you want me to ask to them, okay? And when we will close this panel, then we will have a 10 minutes break, and we will start with the startup competition with 5 finalists, 5 amazing startups, and we have the jury, the 4 that they are already on stage, plus the winner of last year, okay? So please, at the break, don't leave. Stay on stage. You will miss, if not, you will miss the big final. Okay, so thank you very much, and we will start with the first presentation. It's an honor for us to have you with us, Liora, and please, that's for you. Big applause for her. Thank you.
Okay, hi, I'm Liora. I'm the CIO of Tel Aviv Municipality. And I'd like to share with you the framework that we created to help startups in the city of Tel Aviv. And this is part of our Smart City program in the city. Can't see it. I missed the... No, I want to play it. See the enter? No? Okay, it doesn't work. We'll move forward. At the last years, Israel is becoming a startup nation. And there was a lot of books that try to explain why this burst of creativity has happened in the state of Israel. But Tel Aviv, as the heart of the municipality or the metropolitan, have become the startup city. But there is a big question there. Why should a city help the startup communities? And our answer is, first, we believe in creating an ecosystem. Usually, only the municipality provides services for the residents. But there are other communities there. The commercial community, the developer communities, the startups. We can join forces together and give better and richer services to the residents when we are together. The idea is to create a live system that leverage the three partners, inspire them in creating services for the residents of the city. It is also positioned the city as an innovator, turning the city into a live beta site. It also supports the idea of smart city by helping the economical development. So, how do we leverage the startups community in developing services, developing apps that provide information and services to the different members of the communities, like the elderly that you're seeing right here? The idea is to create a framework, a whole and comprehensive plan how the city can help the startups. But first, we had to define what are the startups' needs. What we found out is sometimes they need a certain database that the municipality owns. Sometimes they just need to talk to one of the municipality experts. Sometimes they need a place to try their new product. Sometimes they need a place to stay and work. Sometimes they have an idea of collaboration with the municipality, but always they need a reduction in taxes. The second thing was to establish if we are offering the service to everyone or to focus on a specific startups. We decided to focus on startups that improve the quality of life in the city. And I mean in the wide aspect. For example, if you developed an app that will get me find a taxi faster, that's improving the quality of life. If you have a parking lot beneath your home and you want to rent it, it will help improving the quality of life for others. And we decided to focus on startups that promote Tel Aviv to be a smart city. So after we defined the services and the population, how are we going to do it? First, workplaces. We established 4 workplaces for startups in the city. You are currently watching an old library which was partially converted to a startup hub. As you can see, you have to invest in the place and create an innovation atmosphere in order to inspire creativity. The workplaces have acceptance criteria. The startups can stay there between 3 to 6 months. The workplaces also provide fast internet, coffee, and even technical briefs that are given by local companies. The second service is exposing the city databases. We have a policy of sharing the data with everyone, except for privacy issues. We do not expose data that relate to a specific person. And we have close legal escort in every decision. By the way, you are watching a mobile library that the municipality produced. It's free, it's self-service, you can come, take a book, go to the beach, sometimes return the book, sometimes not. Everything is free in Tel Aviv. The third service is a beta site. If a startup has a product, for example, an app that publishes events like Tel Aviv Marathon that you're seeing, a product which is in the early stage, an alpha or a beta, and looks for our organization to try it, Tel Aviv Municipality is willing to be his beta site and give real feedback for startups. By the way, we also gain from being a beta site by inserting innovative ideas and tools into the municipality. The next service is the ability to consult with the city expert. For example, if we are developing an app that will help find lost dog, It surely will help you if you can have a conversation with the city vet to understand how processes are being done. Or another example is a startup named Sentidio that aims to develop the social skills of autistic kids by producing videos that speak directly to the child and try to extract reactions from him. With our help, they met the teachers that deals with autistic children. They sat in the classroom for 2 days and made observation, improved the product, and now developed a new version that we are going to try in the municipality of Tel Aviv. And if a startup decides to work from the beach, that's fine. But if not, they will probably need a reduction in taxes. In Israel, in order to encourage the development of software, the government decided on a reduced tax for companies that develop software. So what we did is include the startups community in that group. But if you insist on working in the beach or in the streets, we provide free internet for everyone. The last thing is not a service, but a way to encourage the community. We are organizing competitions and hackathons that try to address the real challenges that we face in the city. We decided to have a minimum of 2 municipality challenges every year. For example, we had a transportation hackathon a few months ago. So city experts and startups sat together, tried to find ways to improve the quality of life. We had 400 persons that registered, but we have placed only for 200 of them. 40 groups were formed and competed in the hackathons. And I can show you the winners. It is a startup called Zen City, which now has a real product and is presenting right now here in the Expo at the Israeli Pavilion. So how it is done? First of all, we establish a meeting with the startup, try to understand their needs. And after that, we direct them to the specific service that they really need. The meeting is done by a formal municipal committee. And you know, when the public sector wants to bury an idea, he forms a committee. But you can see our committee. It is slightly different, informal, without ties or suits, and really willing to help. So this is our framework, a comprehensive plan that aims to help the startup communities. And the idea is when we help startups, they will help us back in giving better services for the residents of the city, really creating an ecosystem of innovation in the city of Tel Aviv. And what we are seeing now is our vision not only for startup, it's our vision for smart city. And when you are looking at the practical model that we establish, you can see the cube here, the red one, as the startups being really part of our solutions of smart city. Thank you.
Thank you, Liora. She's the CIO of Tel Aviv Yafo. Thank you very much. For the next one, please, Niksa Vlahusic from Dubrovnik Development Agency.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming. Niksa, I made a mistake.
Yeah, I will present myself, no problem.
Yeah, okay, much better.
Yeah, so I'm Niksa, coming from City of Dubrovnik Development Agency. Oh, just a second. I'm going to present you actually the same presentation I did the last year. The only difference is the projects that were in that presentation were planned, and now after 1 year we have completed all the projects, and I'm going to show you the other plan for the next year, and I'm hoping that we will come here again and present them then. So first, a bit about Dubrovnik. You can see it's a small touristic city. So most of other sectors are not so developed as the tourism, but what we are trying to do actually is to turn Dubrovnik into smart city, because we can see that it's a good way, if you reach the limit in some way, to optimize what you have. And smart cities are actually just that, optimization of available services and integration. So let me start with this video, if I can. Can I put in the USB? It's not working. Well, some technical issues. Okay, we'll try to push it on later.
No.
So what I wanted to say actually is how we started with this whole smart city project. Our intention was to include the locals and the local community of startups as much as possible, to make them our primary focus and to allow them to develop and test their ideas in our city, and also to include big companies to fill in the gaps where possible. So the whole thing started with the Startup Weekend, which has been organized a few years. And what we found out actually that people are leaning more towards IT businesses and IT entrepreneurship. So after that Startup Weekend events, we started organizing hackathons to gather the locals. And also we organized a few conferences to educate the local population and politicians what actually means to be a smart city and what it takes to do it. Now, this is one of the applications that was developed by also local startup, Enom Software. This is an application where citizens can take a picture of some problem they see in the city, for example, a broken light or some trash or something like that. And there is an administrator from the city behind, which receives the reports and then solves the issue or sends it to somewhere else that to be solved. The whole thing is transparent, so each citizen can see who took the issue and when it's going to be solved, and is it solved, or maybe if it's not under jurisdiction of the city, then they can forward it further. This is also one of the projects developed by startup Universal Industries that came from the hackathon. It covers the public park irrigation, and it's not a public application, but application for companies that are controlling and managing the parks. The solar bench is a nice way to educate the people about importance of environmental issues and so on. So this bench actually monitors UV radiation, temperature, humidity, generated power, used power. People can plug in their phones and charge them on the bench. This is a touristic application, Dubrovnik card, which enables you basically to buy one card and then visit different city services or private services that are part of this application, like restaurants or so on, with some discount. There are also eye beacons deployed over the city, so when you pass with this app by a certain object, you will get notified that there is something for you there to see. Also, for most Mediterranean cities, parking and traffic is a really important issue, and this was actually the most important issue identified by our document Smart City Strategy. So these are basically infrared sensors that are placed on each parking spot, and you have an application where you can see which spot is available and which spot is not. It was developed jointly by two companies, Universal Industries and Anom Software. And these are some of the projects that we are planning to do in the future. So checking the quality of air and sea at the beaches, also personalized offers towards tourists. We had a visit from UNESCO, which made a report advising the city of Dubrovnik to limit the number of people to 8,000 within the old city core. So also one of our objectives is to place people counters and the entrance, and in that way keep the total amount of visitors at 8,000 at any moment. Also, what we have seen that it's much easier to start with some of the basic infrastructures, so Wi-Fi. Dubrovnik didn't start like that, but I would like to advise you definitely if your city is going towards a smart city direction, then one of the first steps should definitely be free Wi-Fi for the city. Then all startups that want to do some projects basically know that their end users, for example tourists, can use the free internet. And also what we also plan to do is traffic monitoring and traffic management on the whole city scale to optimize the traffic as much as possible. Now, startups have some initial needs and some initial problems, and from what we found out is this is the best way to provide them this basic services like co-working space with free Wi-Fi, IoT equipment, other standard equipment like PCs and Macs to develop different applications for mobile phones. Now, the whole project was based actually on a smart city strategy, on an investigation. I would say this is also an important part. You need to connect the real needs of the city with the projects that you want to do. There is no use building some applications that later on will be forgotten. So, as I said, in 1 year we planned 5 pilot projects, and they are now completed. And we are planning for the next year another 7 projects, and I'm really hoping that we will manage to do that. Now, without video, this is kind of all. Thank you.
No, it seems that there is a technical problem, so sorry, Niksa. Thank you very much. So we went to Tel Aviv and then to Dubrovnik, and now Berlin?
Berlin.
Okay, so now with Philipp Bouteiller, the CEO of Tegel Projekt.
Thank you so much. Whilst the presentation is coming up, so I'm responsible for one of the craziest projects we've undertaken in Berlin for quite some time. What startups basically need, how does it work with the presentation? I don't know, it doesn't come up. What startups basically need is financing. Berlin has become one of the major early stage financiers. Berlin is a city of Germany. You need space and you need opportunity. And I'm going to talk about space and opportunity. I'm basically responsible for converting our current international airport into paradise for tech startups. Thanks, that's great. For paradise for tech startups, but we can't really finish our old, the new airport. We are still building it, and there was a terrible delay, and it's really insulting, and even Lego produced a new series for failed major projects, our new airport being part of it. So that's really terrible, but that gave us a little more time to prepare the project, which is, no? Here we go. This is our current airport from the air. It's pretty big, actually. It's roughly 5 square kilometers in size, and I'm sparing you the details of it, but we'll have a huge innovation campus there for startups. It's about 5% the size of the Cité de Paris. And it's located very centrally, just 15 minutes from the seat of the German government with Angie, 10 minutes to the city west, the shopping district. It's embedded sort of in the old industrial and production cluster of Berlin, so a perfect environment for tech startups to thrive and develop. Now, the opportunity that's currently developing, and we are at the Smart City Expo here, is that it's time to disrupt cities. Cities are growing like crazy everywhere in the world. Berlin has grown by between 40 and 50,000 people net, inhabitants net, over the last few years per year, not including refugees, so they come on top. So most cities are growing, and growth creates tension and opportunity. So we decided the tech sectors we will focus on, and that's the particularly interesting thing for startups, is mobility. There's a lot of stuff going on in mobility. You've seen it here in at the conference. Energy, recycling, the whole cradle-to-cradle and circular economy stuff. Then, of course, materials research and IT solutions. So basically, whatever you've seen here in the last 2 days is applicable to this incredible project. It's a huge market. Some people say it's going to grow to 5,400 billion euros per year in 9 years from now. Currently, we are about half of that, so it's growing quickly. And Berlin has now turned into Europe's startup hub #1. Last year, we had more than 2 billion in VC investments into the startup ecosystem, and we even bet London by a good margin. I think this year it will not look as good, so London's caught up again, but sorry folks, the Brexit will help Berlin again. And also we have the highest number of Israeli startups, particularly from Tel Aviv, in Berlin now, outside of Tel Aviv. And there's a very close cooperation between Berlin and Tel Aviv, and that's sort of increasing year by year. Our mayor's just been to Tel Aviv, and we are sort of mutually attending conferences. And it's absolutely fantastic what you're doing as a city for your startup scene. Now, a lot of, hang on, technical problems, doesn't matter. Basically, the innovative potential that we currently have in Berlin, because we are fairly affordable, we have more than 170,000 students, but we don't have a sufficient number of industrial jobs. So people begin to set up their own startups. It's still very affordable, but a lot of major companies are now coming to Berlin to set up their innovation hubs, their innovation labs, and that's a wonderful development. New technologies facilitate change. That's, again, opportunity for startups. In the lighting space, you've seen all the cloud and open API solutions, the IoT world. But one of the things that's going to change the face of our cities most in the coming years, in the next 5 to 10 years, is automated driving. And I think there's majority consensus on that. Robotics, artificial intelligence systems are a prerequisite for autonomous driving, for the change of our cities, of course. The whole IoT ecosystem, blockchain technology, I don't need to talk about that. I mean, there's crazy stuff going on everywhere. So we asked, so I used to work for McKinsey, I asked my former colleagues which technologies are the most relevant. They came up with Internet of Things, high performance materials, advanced robotics, etc. So all these are fields that are heavily developing, and as a startup, I can only advise you to go into one of these sectors if you want to thrive over the next few years. But technology is not a cure-all. This is the traffic control center in Rio de Janeiro. It was built by IBM, so huge technology investment. In Beijing, it looks very similar. But still, the traffic in both cities looks more or less like this. So that alone is not the solution. We have to start to plan better cities. Bicycling, of course, is a very integral part of it. It's sort of literally exploding all over the world. Amsterdam has officially run out of bicycle parking spaces by now. That's a problem I'd love to have in Berlin. So you've got to be a good planner to plan ahead of the things that are coming. But in terms of startups, I'm going to present two very interesting cases that, again, will revolutionize our cities. The first question is, why don't we print cities? And again, oh, this video is playing. That happened sort of in June 14. That was the first time I presented this on stage. It was a YouTube video from a factory in China. The startup had basically stolen some IP from an American professor and built these 10 houses in a matter of 24 hours. Only half a year later, it looked like that. They were so ugly, the old ones. I mean, they're still ugly, but it's improving. Then in 15, they printed a whole villa. Then this year in Dubai, they printed a 240 square meter office building in a matter of 15 days and 2 days assembly, saved 70% of costs. I mean, this is all starting, and now Singapore is planning a whole 3D printed social housing district. It's absolutely incredible. So this is when, this happens when startups hit a sweet spot. The mantra is the future is electric. And if electricity is renewable, then it's no longer evil. You can do amazing things with it. You can cool, you can heat, you can drive, you can produce, you can do all sorts of good things. And there's a bright, bright future ahead. And if you look at what's happened in the solar, in the renewable energy industry, this is Germany, end of 2000s. We had about 30,000 installations of renewable energy production. Then by the end of 2005, we had 220,000 installations. And you see the red dots in the north are wind energy. The yellow dots that are popping up in the south are solar energy, PV. Green will become irrelevant over time. By the end of 2010, we had 750,000 installations. By the end of 2012, 1.3 million installations. And the guys sort of counting these dots gave up then. But we know that by the end of last year, we had more than 2.5 million installations. So it's exploding. Yes, the storage problem has not been solved yet, but there are so many startups working on it. One of them is Tesla. We say the competitiveness threshold against oil is at somewhere in the region of $150 per kilowatt hour lithium-ion batteries. And officially, we are currently between 340 and 300. The Gigafactory by Tesla will produce somewhere below 200. So we are almost there. We are almost there. And there are so many more opportunities coming up for startups from this field alone. This is the other startup I wanted to introduce. It's Local Motors. They have a subsidiary in Berlin now. And Olli, their little bus, is autonomous, it's electric. I mean, it's still piloting, but it's driving around. I drove it last week, and it's absolutely fantastic. So it's a glimpse into the future, and it's great. We have identified for our project more than 140 innovations that we want to bring into the project, and a lot of that is still in development. So that's why I said we are turning this into startup heaven. Thank you.
Thank you, Philipp. So Tel Aviv, Dubrovnik, Berlin, and now we land to home, Barcelona. Fernando Rayón from Akbar, that's yours. Yep.
That's it. This one, okay. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much to 4 years from now for inviting me to explain my case in Barcelona. You know that, as Juan said, this is the water supply and sanitation company of Barcelona, which is called Aigües de Barcelona. You know that Aigües is Catalan for water. And as we manage a basic element for the human life, we are providing with water to all our people in Barcelona, the people living here and the people that visit us as tourists. We are concerned about the quality of life of the people in Barcelona, and we wanted to know how our citizens could help to the city to improve the quality of life of everybody living here. And we thought that the entrepreneurs who set up their startups are basically citizens as well. And so we wanted to ask them how to improve the life in the city, taking advantage of what they could do as entrepreneurs. So we thought that they are citizens, they've got their own problems, simple problems. Maybe one of them has a grandmother who is living far away and he has some difficulties in connecting her and so they think about how to make up the solutions for the problems they have. So we would like to give these entrepreneurs a chance to develop their solutions to improve the quality of life in Barcelona. And we set up this kind of incubation program to give these entrepreneurs the possibility of doing their dreams. So what is City? City is a name that it is a mix from the Spanish sí, which is yes, and city, obviously. So this is a yes to the city, and it is formed by three elements. I was the Barcelona, which is the main supporter of the program. Incubio, which is an incubator which is placed in Barcelona and has experience in incubating startups. And obviously the entrepreneurs. This is the three elements that conform the city initiative. We set up a program. We made a call, an international call, to get these ideas to improve the quality of life in the city. We received 123 proposals, from which we took up 15 in the first stage just to incubate them on an online basis. And then we select from these 15, the best 5 startups to continue with an incubation in the installations of Incubio, which are in an old place where the dog races took place, which is now recovered to give this formation, this training for the startups. Just to select, have a good criteria on selecting these startups, we set up a jury that was formed by 6 people, 2 of them coming from the local government, the Generalitat de Catalunya, 2 of them coming from the metropolitan area administration, and 2 of them coming from the municipality of Barcelona. All of them were experts in knowing the developing of startups and the entrepreneurship and ecosystem in Barcelona, and also knowing the main problems that Barcelona have. So the approach that we gave to this city program was taking into consideration that the city brings the technological platform. You know that we have a very important entrepreneurial ecosystem in Barcelona, and the Incubio, which is very well connected with the nodes that are working on the entrepreneurial side. The city expertise, the jury, the opinions and the criteria of the jury for selecting these startups, and obviously the Barcelona atmosphere and the living that we have here, and everybody is happy to come here to make an incubation for their startups. Our company also provided the city expertise as operators of a basic service in the city. We know very well what is going on the city, and we have a very important operational capability in the city. Obviously, the business knowledge that can be transferred to the startups. The possibility of providing these startups for doing some pilot exercises in our installations, and obviously the funding for the incubation. With all of this, the entrepreneur gets training, or important training for developing their projects, mentoring, business knowledge, pilot opportunities, and funding. And the citizen gets solutions for their real problems, because the problems have been proposed by themselves, a quality of life improvement, and entrepreneurship opportunities, as any citizen that can have an idea of improving the quality of life can present this idea to this incubation program. So we selected these 5 startups. The first one, Wongo, is related to a marketplace that provides some money for the NGOs and this kind of social activities coming from the selling of the second-hand market. Sharing Academy, which is a platform for students looking for classes, looking for training by people who is still studying in the same university. Seed&Click, which is a kind of PowerPoint to manage and design 3D elements. Cercana, which is a platform for helping the people to use the elderly and the dependent people to use the smartphones and be in contact with their relatives and the health institutions. And the Smart Monkey, which has developed an intelligent management system for optimizing the logistic of the last mile. All of them had this problem as they are the citizens themselves, and they are very, very enthusiastic of the possibility of developing these solutions. All of them have made some pilots in our company, because a company of water supply not only supply waters, it is necessary to do a lot of other works and other activities that can help them to check or even to enlarge the objective of their own projects, and they have been very happy to work with us. So this is all. This is our 2016 edition. We presented the 5 projects on the 6th of October, last October, and they are working well now. They are expanding their activities and their capacities, and we hope that they will provide, in fact, real solutions to our citizens. So that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fernando. And thank you, all of you. That was very interesting to share your experiences, your 4 experiences. Just to remind you, there are some microphones over there. So if you have a question, you can just stand up and ask a question. And also we have the application Ask and Vote. There's no question yet. Don't worry, I have a lot of questions, so don't worry about that. If you have one question, just raise your hand, okay? And you can stand up over there. But I have a question. Well, basically, I have many ones, but I will start with the first one, okay? Which is your approach to the ecosystem of startups? It's clear, for example, for Aguas de Barcelona, you find a partner to launch an incubator. Which are the strategies that you think that they are quite interesting to approach the startups? Because as you know, the mindset of a startup is quite different from a big company. So sometimes to try to, I don't know, to launch an incubator inside the company could be a worse solution because you are basically killing a little bit the innovation. So that could be interesting to have the incubation outside of the company. But what do you think are the best strategies to approach this ecosystem of startups to get the innovation? You, Niksa, because I've learned your name, so that's now easy for me. Niksa.
Sure. Yeah. That's it's on?
Yeah.
Okay, so when City is working with the startups, it needs to consider that the difference between startups and big companies. You can basically look at startups more as a citizens and not as a companies. And what's really important is that they feel safe. So they need to see a representative from the city that is willing to listen to them and listen to their problems. Also, the startups work much quicker than big companies, so I prefer meeting face to face and then talking what are their desires and their needs and providing that, because really the needs of the startups in financial sense are not such big needs for the city.
I've probably a slightly different perspective. I've built several startups myself after my McKinsey career, and I would say startups thrive despite of politicians and cities, what they do. What they need is opportunity, they need space, affordable space, and investments. So tax breaks typically do not help startups, because until the time that they are cash flow positive and are making profits and are taxed on these profits, typically you've got, I don't know, some 3 to 5 years, but most startups don't even survive that time. So the support should come for the investors who take the risk to invest in startups. So that's a much more important lever. So the financing ecosystem plays an important role. That's, I mean, Silicon Valley is light years ahead of anything we see here in Europe. When it comes to space, as I said, sort of most cities are growing. The same happens in Berlin heavily. The same is true for Tel Aviv and others. So space becomes an issue. So now it does make sense as a city to step in and provide sort of co-working spaces, subsidized, of course. But in the end, you could also say, you know, London does not subsidize these spaces. And in a way, it forces startups to be more disciplined. And the time for a startup from sort of setting up operations to success or failure is so much quicker. There are so many startups around. They are more like living dead. You know, they never take off, but they get subsidies and subsidized space, and they hang on and hang on, and sort of they bind all this fantastic talent. They should, you know, just stop and do something else and just hope that they have more success. So the role of the city, I think, personally, is very limited.
Well, obviously, I have a slightly different approach. I agree that the startup community will foster with or without us. But if we are trying to speak about the part of the startups that deals with a relationship with the municipality, or sometimes even improving the quality of life, then the contact with the municipality is crucial. First, to address the challenge and understand them and make them understand how the process works. So we in Tel Aviv Municipality have decided to take an active role in helping startups. That's what was shown earlier. So I believe when we are helping them, the solutions are better. And when we are helping them, they will stay in the surrounding of our city. So this is really our goal. And the second part of the question deals with innovation inside the municipality. We try to create innovation within the municipality as well, with the municipality workers. So we have a special program to educate the municipality worker to become innovators. They have a whole course with a competition at the end when they have to make ideas of improvement and innovating things that can be done inside the municipality. Again, the winner of the competition gets the money to really implement the idea. That's beside their usual work. It's not left. And that's bringing a new vibe inside the municipality as well.
Well, for us, that was a completely new experiment. We were not trying to get some products or services related to our core business, but instead of that, we were trying to see if, as urban operators with a very large implementation in the city, with managing infrastructures, having cars that are driving all around the city, the 24 hours a day, trying to see if with those all assets, we could provide some new services to the citizens. And for that, it was necessary to go outside, because inside we have this mentality of water engineers that are not very close to the real problems of the citizens. So it was important to get an incubator who was outside us, and it was important to get people who selected the startups who were outside us. We have seen effectively that these 5 startups that are carrying out activities very different between themselves, all of them have had the possibility of doing something inside us, because we have a lot of things we are doing every day, not directly related to water supply, but needed to realize the water supply. So it is important that to see for us that we are very closely implemented in the city, and we can help other people to improve the general quality of life. This is the experiment.
Thank you. Is there any question? Yes, thank you. A big applause for the first question of tonight.
Okay.
Please.
Good.
Thank you.
All right, so can you hear me? Yes, you can. My name is Guardianson. I work for a startup. It's called Smart Cities Norway. I have been back and forth through my career between the startup scene and actually the public sector, jumping back and forth. And now doing a startup in the smart city field, it strikes me that there is possibly a missing model. Maybe it's not missing, maybe it's about to appear. And I think maybe Tel Aviv is a good example. Basically, if you do a startup together with someone, you both throw in what you have as value. You might have competency or technology or money or whatever you have. But this kind of startups that we're doing now with the smarter cities, it entails that the cities actually also provide value because they are providing their infrastructure. They are providing the testbed, the citizens, and so on and so forth. And the only thing that they want to have back, it seems, is the better services. But if you look at the projects that are being done or the startups as startups, I think that probably the startup would be better if the cities think about that they want to have a return on the value if the value is going beyond just delivering the service. So I would really like to ask you, or anyone in this hall, because I'm writing a piece on this matter at the moment. What do you see? I mean, can you see a future where cities are active shareholders of startups, and if a startup is successful, the city gets a return, or other models that are like that? Thank you.
Just very short answer, please.
So number one, it's already the case. It's the Berlin Investment Bank, I said, is one of the largest early stage investors in Germany. So we do already are stakeholders in many startups. Secondly, the smart city space is particularly difficult. You've seen the presentations of Cisco, IBM, Microsoft out there, but none of them is making profit on these solutions yet, because for many reasons. Third thing is the way we as cities take our purchasing decisions. So the whole procurement process is not geared towards innovation or startups. It's about sort of cost minimization and risk avoidance. So if public service buys stuff, you as a startup don't stand a chance unless the city fosters it, gives visibility deliberately, which we are doing great in Tel Aviv, and we are trying to do that as well in Berlin, but we are not as good as you yet, and actively invest in it. It is a problem.
From my perspective, we do not want any funds returned to the municipality. We are not thinking of model like this. We come from a pure point of view. We want to help the startups just for them to provide better services for the residents. We do not want any business model. I think it's a more clean approach because you do not owe anything to the municipality. The municipality is here just for helping you. And for the other part of the question, for us maybe be involved with buying some shares of startup or helping them financially, I think we are not there yet. So it's the decision. It's hard enough to change the mindset inside the municipality and let them embrace the startup community. I think maybe the financing stage will be next stage.
Okay, thank you. Next question.
Hi, I'm Paul. I'm with a software company called CA Technologies. So my question is, I'm curious how much of developing these incubators is pull versus push. Are you having a whole lot of entrepreneurs, people like, you have to make an incubator, you have to make an incubator, and it's pushing you to do it? Or are you saying, boy, we should really have an incubator because we want to bring all these entrepreneurs and hopefully you're going to pull all the entrepreneurs to it?
I would say it's a little bit about. It depends actually on what you want to do at the moment. So the story of Dubrovnik is actually we started with pulling the entrepreneurs, but our incubator is full. So there is enough need to fill it. So yeah.
Okay.
It's a bit like building roads. The more road space you offer, the more cars come and clog it up. And in Berlin, there are, I don't know, 30, 40 incubators, whatever spaces now. I've lost count. And most of them are commercial. And they work. So the market kind of regulates that.
I can give you our perspective. Currently in Tel Aviv, we have about 84 incubators, and the municipality owns only 4 of them. And the 4 that we own is fully. The demand is much higher that we can accept. But the reason that we started having those hubs and incubators is not because we had someone tell us or demand us to do it. We had a decision that we should be in that scene, and that's what we did.
Okay. Thank you. So before we finish this first part, this panel, as you know, 4 years from now has organized that stage. So I will ask you, which is your vision from 4 years from now about the smart city or your personal experience or professional experience? What's your vision in a short sentence, Fernando, if you want to start?
Well, I think that now we are in the bubble of the technology about the smart city. Maybe we have to set up the governance, because everything in the governance of the city will change according to the things that are happening today in the technology side. So governance for me is the key right now.
I can say that Tel Aviv focus of smart city was the resident. One resident. We try to know the resident, try to know his characteristic, and really have tailored information and tailored services for every resident. And the next years will be about communities. We are going to invest a lot of building tools for communities, because we see the social change that is being done in the city. People want to communicate with people that are living in the same street or in the same neighborhood. They want to give service to one another. They want to go outside and have some event with the children together. So we are going to help them have tools around communities.
Today I've seen so many technical solutions for problems that don't exist. So in 4 years, I would hope to see really smart, integrated, seamless solutions that work from a citizen perspective and really improve our lives. If you compare to 4 years ago, we have leapfrogged. And the next 4 years, we'll see a revolution, I hope.
I'd like to say that lots of cities out there are talking that there are smart cities, but in my opinion, there are no smart cities in the world yet. So I'm hoping that in 4 years that will change and Dubrovnik will be the first smart city.
Thank you. So as you can see, we have the 4 conclusions. You did it. Governance, community, integration, we can say, and then I would say Dubrovnik as smart city. Okay, so big applause for the 4 people on stage today. Thank you very much to share your thoughts. It was very, very, very interesting. And please don't leave. We have a 10 minutes break, and then we come back in 10 minutes with the startup competition with the 5 finalists, and we will see who's the winner of this year, okay? Thank you very much. Thank you.